It's almost our favorite time of year. That's right. The fair returns March 16th, celebrating 71 years of fun.
Wow. And this year's theme is a world of fun, which means destination-influenced rides with international foods and shows.
Okay, pero what are we going to eat this year? That's what everybody wants to know,
That
right?
is the magic question. Okay, let's see. There's the Miami Cuban funnel cake sandwich, the Mexican street corn pizza, bacon pineapple burger, chili lime candy apple, and those are only some of them. There's over 130 food options.
Bueno, hay que empezar la dieta ahora. You know, there's even new shows, tú sabes, to sit down and relax a bit.
Right.
There's a dueling piano show that takes audience requests and a survey says game show where your team competes for prizes.
Okay, new food, new shows, the rides. That's a lot to do at the fair.
Bueno, pero you know that the fair is a tradition.
That's true.
Pero no worries. Just download the Youth Fair mobile app to keep track of show schedules, deals, food, rides, y de todo.
The only thing left is for us to figure out when we're going to go from March 16th through April 9th.
You know, there's only one thing left to say at this point.
Be there, the fair.
This is DJ.
And this is Ish.
And this is
Season 6 of Pero Let Me Tell You.
Oye,
Que voila.
did you do the thing?
I mean, we're the only podcast that always does the thing.
Well, we did the thing. And we're not even Angela Bassett.
We're not even Angela Bassett.
Ah, bueno, everybody, welcome to episode
239
of Pero Let Me Tell You. We
Where
made
we
it
do
through
the
another
thing.
week where we do the thing.
Week every week.
Every week we do the thing. For 6 seasons, we've been doing the thing.
Pero Let Me Tell You did the thing.
So welcome everybody. Welcome. So what Ish and I are referencing, if you haven't caught on,
Right.
listeners, is what went viral this week with
Ariana de Bose.
Ariana de Bose hosting the BAFTAs, which I think it's
She hosted or she just opened?
I think she hosted.
Okay.
But regardless,
Right.
that's the most coverage the BAFTAs have ever gotten in the United States ever. And for those of you who don't know, it's the British Academy of Television and Film. Of Film and Television.
Film and television, yeah.
I said BAT.
The BAFTA.
So it's like the equivalent of the Oscars and Emmys. It's a big deal over in the UK.
It's like combined, right?
Yeah. It's a really big deal. So she hosted it and
She opened the show.
She opened the show, which the number was okay up until she got to the rap.
Well, she put it together herself.
The whole number?
Yeah, she conceived it. She, according to what I read, she like produced it herself.
Oh, and there wasn't other people in that room?
Apparently not.
I mean, I know she's an Academy Award winner, and with that comes a certain
cachet,
and I guess freedom,
creative liberty. Yeah.
But I mean, it was bad.
Like, run it by someone, Ari.
It was really bad. Yeah, it was really bad. And you know,
but I loved how bad it was.
You know what though? So again, listeners, go on and watch. Just
press pause right now. Go watch it. Come
go
back.
Watch. Put it on
It's 5
Google
minutes.
or on YouTube.
Yep.
Ariana de Bose. Angela Bassett did the thing.
Right.
So she opens up with a musical number of when sisters are doing it for themselves, which was fine.
Yes.
But then she went into a rap
that was very like Vogue.
That was like talking about the female nominees that year.
Right.
And it was just awful. It was just awful. And then when she gets to Angela Bassett, she's like, Angela Bassett did the thing. But then she was like out of breath too.
And this is why
it was like,
there was a lot.
It was Murphy's Law.
It was, right.
The only thing worse could get la lámpara arriba.
Oh my
you
God,
know, like,
no, poor Rihanna. No. But I will say this, like, you know how last week we were talking about Rihanna? Yeah. How I was saying, you know, Rihanna, that I don't give a fuck attitude, you know. No, I want you to go, you know what? This is what I want. I want Ariana de Bose, right? I want her to be so in the moment that she's out of breath halfway through her number.
And you're talking about a person who's like young and healthy.
And a theater veteran.
She was giving it so hard that she was like,
she's like, Angela Bassett did the thing.
Ay, no puedo respirar. Estoy sofocada.
And she's a theater girl. So she's used to performing on stage, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it was just hilarious. But you know what though? This whole thing,
no for her to delete her Twitter.
Actually, that's what I wanted to kind of mention and talk about. The way that I found out about this was, when I'm looking at the news the next day or whenever,
right.
It said, Ariana de Bose deletes Twitter account after, botched BAFTA opening or whatever. And I was like, that's strange. Because I feel that she's right now in one of those kind of honeymoon stages with Hollywood. She won an Academy Award. She was the first of many firsts. Right? So she's kind of in that, we lift her up. We're not going to tear her down.
She's still on the pedestal.
The media does many times. And I was like, that's strange. But then I started obviously reading why and a lot of the comments. And, unless there was comments on Twitter.
Well, of course there was.
For two people hating Twitter as much as we do, we talk a lot about Twitter.
They should get shares.
I don't know if they were making personal attacks on her. I'm sure to a certain extent they were.
But I'm sure they were doing that before.
But, what I didn't know or I wanted to decipher was if they were laughing at her performance, which was hilariously bad, I think that's fair game. You could laugh at somebody's performance as long as you don't make it personal, because obviously she has the chops, right?
Right.
She knows it. We know that she's not a gimmick.
She's talented.
She has the talent, to do what she does. She just had a, quirky.
Everybody has an off night.
A quirky off night that gave us memes, right?
Right.
And I think that's all fun and dandy, but it's like, okay, but if you also delete your Twitter because people did not like your performance, are you being...
That comes across as a little sensitive.
Right. Or was she personally attacked? She probably was personally attacked because it was Twitter,
But then she was probably personally attacked on Twitter many times before.
Right.
You know what I mean? Tampoco it's not... Again, she's the first, queer Afro-Latina to win an award that we know of. The Oscar. So I'm sure at that moment she wasn't exactly getting a lot of love from a lot of people. From certain people.
Right. So I was like, that's kind of weird, Yeah. I think she should do a little meme with Angela Bassett.
I think that they should both come on our show and talk about it.
I agree. And ask, what is the thing?
And you know what? If Angela can't make it, just bring Kiki Palmer.
¿Qué es la cosa? Angela hizo la cosa. Oh my God. This is completely little antidote. Today, when Tristan was getting ready to go to school, I was watching reels on Instagram and, ¿cómo se llama that Lady Gaga song? The one that went viral because of Wednesday Addams? I dance with my hand. Right. So I'm watching a reel of this girl in Mexico doing the dance. And she was doing it on the street.
Okay.
Yeah, she was doing it really well. And she was a cute girl. She had the pigtails and all that.
So she was in it.
Yeah. And it was in Mexico.
She was doing the thing.
And she was doing the thing. And Tristan comes and he goes, that's not Wednesday Addams. And I'm like, no, it's not. Miercoles. She's in Mexico. She's Miercoles.
Which is actually what her name is when they translate the Addams Family.
Are you serious?
What else is her name going to be?
They call her Miercoles?
Claro.
And how to say Morticia?
See, I don't know Morticia, but I know Wednesday is Miercoles.
Bueno, the other one is, what is a Hispanic?
Gomez.
Gomez es Gomez.
Yeah.
They call her Miercoles.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But what are they going to call her?
No, but that's not the reason why I told Tristan.
You weren't right.
You're right. I'm like, no. He's like, that's not Wednesday Addams. I'm like, no, it's not. It's in Mexico.
You're right. It's not. You're absolutely right, sir.
So speaking of Latin, which is pretty much what we do here, I actually wanted to talk about something that it made the rounds in terms of news and opinions in the last week. About Raquel Welch.
Oh, love Raquel Welch.
So, for those of you who don't know, Raquel Welch passed away last week at age 82 from another brief illness, right? Which these brief illnesses are
están acabando
Hollywood, which is very strange because Raquel Welch, until very recently, she looked amazing. That you would see her on TV, and it's like, how is this woman? First of all, she was the epitome of sexy, right? Even at that age,
and in her entire career, even when she posed for Playboy, she never appeared fully nude.
Right. So obviously there's been a lot of talk about her and career retrospective and all this stuff. So just in terms of the bias here, of all the women of Hollywood, Raquel Welch is probably in my top 3. She always has been.
That's true.
I've always absolutely loved Raquel Welch because, my God, she was beautiful.
She's the definition of a bombshell.
Yes, she was so beautiful. And when you see a lot of pictures of her, it's funny because my favorite picture of her is not the iconic one from
1 million
BC and the leather
fur bikini.
Right. It's another one which I actually posted the day she passed away. That it's sort of like
it looks Native American.
Yes, that she has like a gun on her side or whatever. So sexy. And this was a time before like plastic surgery. Hair extensions, fillers, Botox. Like, this was the real deal.
Yeah, if you look like that, it's because you look like that.
Yeah. She's always been one of my favorites. But anyway, the reason I wanted to bring that up is because a lot of people don't know that Raquel Welch was Latina. Boliviana. And her father was born and raised in Bolivia.
Yeah.
It wasn't que la bisabuela.
Right.
Like, like Christina Aguilera being like, yo hablo español.
Well, but even Christina Aguilera, her father is, or was, I don't know if he's alive, Latino.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that Christina's was like la tía de la abuela.
No. Okay, it's her father.
Bueno. But with Raquel Welch, ella se llama Raquel Tejada.
Mm-hmm.
Tejada. That was her real name. Actually,
that was her birth name because Welch is her married name from her first husband.
Well,
Welch is the last name of her first husband.
Right. No, but her name was
Jo Raquel.
Jo Raquel Tejada. Tejeda. And her dad was Bolivian. I mean, obviously we knew that, but a lot of people did not know that.
We knew that.
Que ella era Latina.
Right.
And I mean, again, full stop. Ella es Latina.
There's no, like you said.
And I was reading about it, and what I think is so interesting about her story is that when I was reading about it this week, and obviously I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't know about it in such detail. Her dad, like many Latinos that came to the U.S. at that time, we're talking about like the 40s, 50s. They had to assimilate.
Yeah.
And he refused to speak Spanish at home. He learned English.
And that was it.
And his wife obviously was American, and he refused to learn English and speak English in school. Speak Spanish at home. Yeah. The kids purposely did not speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because that's such a far cry and the complete opposite of how we are raised and how now it's such a thing to celebrate your heritage, to like put your heritage front and center and where you come from. And the fact that these people they were Latino and Raquel Welch did not speak any Spanish.
Yeah.
Porque at that time you had to assimilate. And, obviously she made it big in Hollywood, and it was because she had to hide her identity, change her name to Raquel Welch.
And again, she changed her name, but I mean, her name was Raquel Welch. It wasn't like a Rita Hayworth situation where,
Margarita.
Right. And I don't know where the hell Hayworth came from. Welch was her first husband's last name, so she kept it
but she was going to change her name regardless. Right? Because they were, that's what I read. They were telling her that name was going to take her nowhere. Right. And it wasn't until she changed her name that she started getting roles. Right? And it's funny because Raquel is one of those names that could go both ways. It could be like Raquel.
Right. Or
it could be Raquel.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You're right.
Raquel and Raquel are not the same person. But that she had to hide it. And I read something very interesting that was saying...
Question. Did she hide it?
Yes, she was told to hide it.
Okay, she was told to hide it, but I think my question is more like, did she, quote unquote, hide it? Or was it one of those things where at the time you just didn't know what to do with that?
There was not a space for Latinos at that time. Right. And what I read actually was very interesting. It said that there was a Hollywood historian talking or they interviewed him for the piece about her that said that if Raquel Welch would have gone the route of like being out and open about being Latina, she could have been like Rita Moreno.
Right.
Rita Moreno, right?
In
theory, right? But he said, but notice that Rita Moreno was only cast in certain roles as a supporting actress. Whereas Raquel Welch was the leading actress, right?
True.
And was a leading actress and was an icon and a sex bomb and all that because she was looking at a certain image, whereas Rita Moreno's roles were a lot more ethnic.
Yeah. I think she also could have passed for what was called, ethnically ambiguous.
Right.
Right? Because she could have been Italian.
Yeah.
She could have been Navajo.
Clearly, she was able, in the way her appearance was, she was able, to straddle that line.
Right.
But como todo, I'm sure that if she would have gone, it's all in the way your mind is. If she would have gone by Raquel and she would have, dressed a little bit more, I don't know, Latin, you would have been like, oh, esa Latina, right?
True.
Right? So, but it's just, again, it's such a parallel to now, when now it's like, you put that front and center to be like, this is who I am, and break down that door. Right. And I'm Latina, hear me roar. Right.
Yeah. And she did embrace that toward the end of her career.
She did. She did in her 70s. Yeah. She said it was her coming out.
Yeah. Yeah.
As Latina. And a lot of people were shocked. Yeah. And then.
But again, you're talking about a woman who was raised to not be Latina.
Right.
So she didn't have that attachment.
She didn't. But then, and what I was reading, which is no surprise, was that how many people were surprised that she was Latina. And that goes to what, we speak about all the time. That is because so many people, they think they know what a Latino looks like and sounds like.
Right.
Right. But as we know, we come in different shades and colors and the spectrum and all that and accents and this and that. And, again, because we're seen through a lens that is so one-dimensional so many times, when people see somebody like Raquel Welch, que es boliviana, right?
Right, because we're not talking Spanish.
Right, ella es boliviana. Right. They're like, what? What? Pero que es ella? What? No, they wouldn't say que es ella. Raquel Welch is Latina.
She's a Latina.
She's a spicy Latina.
Oh, she would have been spicy.
Oh.
With that body, she would have been considered spicy left, right, and center.
She is so hot. So
she is
right
up until her 80s. I don't care.
She did an interview with Piers Morgan in his show in England. The This Is Your Life, whatever.
Sí.
I think it was either in 2016 or in 2018. It was an even number.
Okay, so less than 10 years ago.
Right. It was only a few years ago that she's wearing a white dress. She was at this point in her late 70s. Y tú tienes que ver esa mujer. It's like, my gosh.
And she was a good actress. I mean, she got the job done. She could sing. She could dance. Mm-hmm. She could hold her own against Miss Piggy, which is not easy to do. And she was a hell of an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Because she had her own wig line. She had, we were talking the other day, her whole line of glassware at Pearl Vision. I remember, I'm looking at it right now. Her with that late 80s pseudo perm hair and with red glasses.
She also did. I don't remember.
I'm seeing it right now.
Because the thing with her is that, when you're a kid, you don't pay attention to certain things or you don't know the significance. But I do know that in the 80s, she did a commercial. I don't know if it was of Diet Pepsi or Diet Coke, that her hair was kind of in that late 80s perm, and she was wearing a white swimsuit coming out of a pool.
Yes.
Which at that time, us as kids, we were like, I'm una mujer coming out of a pool. But now it's like, she was wearing a white swimsuit coming out of the pool, and it was Raquel Welch. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now it, makes sense.
Yes. Well, rest in peace, Raquel.
Yeah.
It definitely made an impact on all of us. Ay, Dios mío. So I saw a story that I wanted to bring up to you. Because I was like, so we're here already. And also because you're, with your legal background. So apparently there is currently a lawyer that is representing an unfairly imprisoned fetus.
Imprisoned where? In the uterus?
Okay, not what I was expecting you to go with this, but no, imprisoned behind jail. So, for 8 months, I'm reading this from the Miami Herald, so I'm going to read verbatim. For 8 months, someone has been held at Turner Guilford Night Correctional Center with no charge. At least that's what lawyers are arguing in Florida's 3rd District Court of Appeal. Natalia Harrell, an inmate at TGK, is carrying the person behind the case, an unborn child. And it could even set a precedent amid a legal system navigating a complex arguments in a post-Roe world. On Thursday, attorney William Morris, it's a talent agency, filed an emergency writ of habeas corpus, which allows the court to determine whether someone's imprisonment is lawful. He argued that the fetus's incarceration is a violation of his rights guaranteed by the U.S. and Florida constitutions. Quote unquote, unborn child has not been charged with any crime by the state, the writ of habeas corpus said. Quote, further, the state has placed the unborn child in such inherently dangerous environment by placing the unborn child in close proximity to violent criminal offenders. The 24-page document claims that the quote-unquote draconian confinement is harming Harold's unborn child. It says the fetus isn't receiving adequate prenatal, including vitamins, visits, at one point being trapped in a corrections transport van without air conditioning while temperatures exceeded 100 degrees.
So what relief does he want from the court?
It didn't... I couldn't find where it said what he's like trying to get, but I found it so fascinating. A, because like, again, this is where we are, right? This is where we are now, where it's like, if you're claiming that the fetus is a person, so now this is that floodgate that gets opened up, right? Like all this bullshit. Does this mean that she gets house arrest for 8 months, and then when the baby is born, at what? So this is a way that I would. At what point is this a viable person?
So this is a way that I would answer this, or well, this doesn't have an answer. I would try to deconstruct this. So let's say, for all intents and purposes, this fetus is a person with constitutional rights. Okay, so I would assume they're a minor.
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair assumption.
So if you're a minor, obviously the person who represents you is your guardian or your parent.
Okay.
So how is that in play here? Because the mother, the woman who's pregnant, is incarcerated for, do we know what reasons?
It didn't say there.
Right. For X reasons. So if that person has limited freedom because of a crime they committed and were found guilty and are serving time, how is that person going to be making decisions for a minor that they are the parent of? Right? How is that going to work? Right?
I don't understand. Sorry. So what you're saying is,
right,
okay,
so they're a minor, right?
So they have to be in the care of a parent, or
right? They have to be in the care of parents to make decisions. So how are you going to process this? Because this person, the mother who would be making the decisions, is in jail,
and it's in her interest to say,
right, so if the mother says, "Well, I want to release the baby," okay, how?
It's self-interest. It's
how is that going to work? Or in the alternative is that's called unborn person.
That's what it says, unborn child.
State. And if so, if they're a ward of the state, did it go through a judicial process in which the parent would have had to
give up their parental rights?
Right. Do the parents give up their parental rights? Usually you're a ward of the state when there's some type of trust issue, like there's things involved or stuff like that.
Right. Right. So, I mean, in order for the parent to give up to become a ward of the state, right, they have to, there has to be a reason.
This doesn't, I don't know what process to take because it's something that makes absolutely no sense. I'm just trying to deconstruct it. Mm-hmm. So, you become a ward of the state usually when a child is incapacitated. Is this child incapacitated? Because they're unborn.
Because that's you're in the womb, so that's not incapacitated.
Right, but you're
that's what I'm saying.
You're arguably not viable.
Well, they're 8 months pregnant. They're 8 months along. So,
okay, maybe
so it's
not.
Viable.
Right. It should be viable, but I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. But, I mean, yeah, this is the world we live in now.
I mean, what's the end result here?
I
don't expect you to have the answer. But.
Well, I don't know what the end. First of all, that's why I asked you. The first thing I asked you was what relief is he asking for?
Right.
Because a writ of habeas corpus means that, exactly what you said, that they're being held unlawfully.
Right.
So what is the alternative?
Right. The alternative is let them out.
But what does let them out mean?
But then let them out essentially means...
Do you mean let them out because they are...
induced labor?
Okay, or induced labor because they're viable now?
Right. Or do you mean let the mother carry the next 2 months in her house?
Right. What does that mean?
Right.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that is. I mean... I can't. I can't. I mean...
And this is why I brought it up, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, what are you trying to do here? Right? And then you know what I will turn that around with is like, okay, well, without getting too political in this,
right?
Usually the people that will make this argument of
viability,
right, of the child,
right,
are people that want people that have committed crimes to be put in jail at the maximum.
Right, hang them.
Let's not even go there.
But make them serve the max of whatever
strictest of the law. Right. So, I mean, you're putting somebody in house arrest that maybe should be, because again, I have so many questions like, what was the mother in jail for? Was it white collar crime? Was it,
speeding?
Se robó fruta de the local fruit store? Was it armed robbery? Was it burglary? Was it attempted murder? Yeah. Was it murder? Like, what was she in jail for? I mean, these are the type of things that in a you said a post-Roe world, we're going to have to ask questions about, or people are going to start asking questions. Right.
You open the floodgates.
Right. So here's actually a very, like, I don't want to say valid, but here's a question. If you were to use that concept and you're pregnant and I assault you, did I now assault 2 people or 1?
Oh, that's a very good question.
Right? Because I know what some people are saying. Oh, well, but if you're pregnant and you kill somebody, that's 2 murders. Yeah, but that's codified law. That's not constitutional law. That's based on state law, which is pursuant to that state.
So that varies by state.
Right, it varies by state. A lot of states do have that in the books. And, that's usually for something like murder, right?
Right, but at that point, right, we're talking murder.
Right. So let's talk – we don't even have to get criminal. Let's talk about liability. So if you're pregnant and you fall down at Macy's in a puddle and you don't lose a baby, but you break your arm and you have to be rushed to the hospital because that baby may have –
Wait, they have to check up.
Right. So does that baby have a tort claim against Macy's for liability? I mean,
I love it.
It sounds ridiculous, but I mean,
it sounds ridiculous until you find the lawyer who will take the case.
Right. It sounds ridiculous, but yeah.
It sounds ridiculous until you find the lawyer who will take the case.
Right.
That's great.
So if you're pregnant and I go and threaten you and you file a restraining order, is the baby going to file a restraining order against me too?
No, the baby's okay with you.
Right?
The baby's fine with you. It's just the mother.
Did I threaten the baby too?
No, just the mother.
Just the mother.
Or can you threaten just the baby and not the mother?
I'm going to go after you, baby. I'm going to put you in that corner, baby.
I'm going to climb up in there and hit you.
Right. But yeah, we don't even have to think criminal. We can think liability. We can think civilly. If somebody does, if somebody has some type of if the mother has a liability claim because of somebody's negligence.
Right. So we're talking, again, a valid situation. We're talking all things being
somebody has she has a legit. It could be something as simple as a car accident. If you run a red light and you ram into a car that has a pregnant woman in it, and that pregnant woman is rushed to the hospital, right, because of the injuries that she sustained in that accident, and obviously they have to check up on the baby, right? So does that baby have a bodily injury claim against the person who ran the red light?
Insurance is going to get so expensive. Con lo caro va a estar seguro.
And I would pose furthermore. So if that's the case, if you're pregnant, would you have to put that in your insurance? Like, because if you are opening up the floodgates that somebody who is unborn has certain constitutional rights as a person to make certain claims, where does that start and where does that begin? This is what I always talk about people about law and constitutional rights, and the moment you start tinkering with that, okay, where does it start and where does it begin? So where does it start and where does it end? So if you have a habeas corpus claim, I know that right now we're sort of shooting the shit and just making these ridiculous things,
but I can see your mind.
But if you have a habeas corpus successful claim. So it started with that, and where does it end?
Right.
So then now
you're
that
precedent.
I've been able to show and prove to a court that a woman who is pregnant that's in jail that has a viable fetus inside of her, that fetus is now
unfairly incarcerated.
Is unfairly incarcerated. Well, what makes using that logic
it's
and
precedent.
that analysis, right? That reasoning. That's how we do it in law. The reasoning. Okay. Why wouldn't that carry down to liability, to negligence? Okay, you were injured. You, the mother, were injured because of my negligence, right? You are pregnant. So that baby may have been injured as well, may have gone to the hospital and all that. So what, if I'm able to prove, so let's say, for example,
because I could tell you were just
let's say, for example,
again, the way you thought about it.
That ramming the car, running the red light.
A fender bender.
Right. Uh-huh. The woman is 8 months pregnant. Okay? Mm-hmm. And you and I, it's my fault. I caused the accident. Estaba comiendo mierda and I ran the red light and T-boned you. Right? Off to the hospital you go. They have to induce your labor. Okay? Now the woman, the mother was injured. Let's not even say that it's,
nothing dramatic.
Nothing life-threatening. Okay. But the woman was injured. Right? And the baby now the labor has to be induced. Mm-hmm. There is a certain trauma to a fetus that has to be induced, especially under those circumstances. Mm-hmm. So does that baby now have a liability claim against you? With that reasoning? I don't know. Does it?
Right.
So let me know how that works, everybody. So this is a little tidbit. This is more of like listeners. I would love to, this is what I'm going to ask now. It's one of these things that's like, I would love to hear what our listeners think. You know what I've been recently having like really, really uncomfortable moments with?
What?
Is tipping.
Okay.
You know that I'm a really good tipper.
You are.
When I go to a restaurant.
Yes.
I will always tip 20%. Always.
Minimum, yeah.
Always. Even if the service was meh, I will still tip. It has to be something.
If the service is meh, I may drop it to 15 to 18, but
I will always tip 20%. But let me give you an example. This week, I ordered sushi. And it was for the off. It was, for the office or whatever. It was like $280 worth of sushi.
Coño.
Yeah. It was like a huge platter and whatever.
Clearly.
Right. But I went to pick it up.
Okay, so it wasn't delivery.
It was not delivery. Okay. I went to pick it up.
Was it DiGiorno?
And in there, it automatically defaults to 20. So the $20 tip would have been like $50-some.
Right.
Right? And I was like, no, I'm not going to pay $50-some in tip.
When I had to go get it.
When I'm choosing to go pick it up.
Right.
Right? So I put a $10 tip.
Okay.
Right? And when I go pick it up, right? They bring me out the sushi and all that and the platter and all that. And I asked the guy in the counter, I'm like, oh, does this have chopped, do you put the chopsticks, the cubierto and all that? And he's like, yeah, it's all there. And then in the back, I hear a lady who works there. Is that the $260 or whatever order that gave a $10 tip? And she
said that?
Yeah, I wasn't supposed to hear that.
Okay, but we're Miami and we're Latin. Our voices carry.
But I did.
Wow.
And he didn't say anything.
He didn't acknowledge. He was
realized that I was there. And I just walked away. But then I was upset, but I felt guilty about it too. Because on the one hand, again, I know the service, and although this is a family-owned restaurant, but whatever. But I know that the service industry and the food industry, heck, we're sort of in the food industry now.
This is true.
I know you work a lot of times, and the wages and all that. I get it. That's why I'm a very good tipper. Right. But I feel that now everywhere you go,
they're expecting the tipping to make up the differential.
Right, and it's like I don't know, because I don't mind leaving you a couple of dollars. I don't mind that at all. But you want me to leave 20% on an order that I'm picking up? Right?
Right.
I don't mind giving you $10. It was a $260 order. But you're upset I didn't give you 55 or 50 pico? So how do you feel about that?
Here's the thing.
Listeners, where are you on that?
Ultimately, the biggest problem here is that, again, tipping has turned into, we're not going to pay you a decent wage. And I'm not saying everywhere, but in general, right. I'm not going to pay you a decent wage. So you know what? We're just going to expect the customers, on top of the fact that they're already paying for the product, and as we know, las cosas están caras,
Está malísima.
Malísima. Están horribles. Los huevos están caros. But, we'll just have them basically pay for the difference that we don't want to pay you. We know that is the case in several places. What I do have an issue with in this instance is, and again, look, we've all bitched and moaned about customers and clients when they're not listening or when we think they're not listening. But what bothers me is that expectation.
Well,
is the expectation that we are supposed to just tip because the tip is there. And I will say this, and you know what, many a time when we do our pop-ups, with Bing Bang Pollo, many people will be like, oh, you don't have a tip thing or whatever. And honestly, it's because I can't figure out how the hell to add it. I've tried. I can't figure it out. I've moved on with my life. But people will be like, oh, you don't have a tip jar. You don't have a whatever. I don't have it there partially because I keep forgetting and I'm lazy, but also because I just don't expect.
Right, but
it's not something that I expect you need to give me because I am providing you I'm providing you the thing that you paid me for.
Right, but that's the part where I'm unsure what the right answer is. That's why I brought this up for a conversation because. Again, if we're at a restaurant, it's a traditional restaurant.
You're on your feet.
I'm giving you 20% no matter what, because that's why I wanted to preface it with that. I like to tip well,
right.
Thankfully I'm in the position that I can. So that's why I always like to tip well.
Right.
Because being a server is a very hard job. But there you go. A server, they're bringing you the food. They're taking your order. They're making your drinks
water
refilled,
right.
So on and so forth. Right. But if I am picking up the food, like, what is the right answer? Because I don't want to be that person because I am not that person. But it's like, do you really think that you expect to be tipped as a server?
Right.
That's where I'm kind of like, I'm finding the disconnect. It's like, you expect to be tipped like a server. Again, a few dollars, I don't mind. In this case, it was 10.
But you're not serving. You're not cleaning up afterwards. You're not doing any of the additional, no pun intended, legwork that a server would do. So, yeah. It's a tricky one, but I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll give you a couple bucks, but I'm not going to tip you as if though you just served me for a 17-course meal.
So I'm just giving you $50-some dollars
for handing me a tray.
To pick up.
For handing me a tray.
Yeah. And then, to the flip side of that, I know that you order a lot from like Uber Eats and Postmates and all that stuff. I never, ever order from that book. And I'm like, gana. Like, no. I'm not going to pay all these fees. So then,
there goes our sponsorships.
So, no. So one of the few places that I've used Uber Eats in is Boca's Grill.
Okay.
I love me some Boca's Grill.
Right.
Right.
I haven't gone there in a while.
They have the tostone with like the shrimp. It's like Peruvian style, right? That's so delicious. That at the store, at the restaurant, it's like $15, $16. Oh yeah, like when I order that, the few times I've ordered it comes out almost double.
Yeah.
And then, there's a delivery fee. There's a delivery fee. And then that person is picking up your food and bringing it to your house. So yes,
you have to tip them. Right. Yeah.
I am certainly going to tip you. So then it's the tip and the delivery fee and then the upcharge of the restaurant.
Right. And the taxes.
And it's like, coño, my tostone con camarones have turned into, una langosta.
Like, prime off the...
a surf and turf.
Yeah. Prime off of the ocean.
Yeah. So... Yes, tipping. Oh my gosh. It was so awkward when I was in Australia. Mm-hmm. There's no tipping in Australia.
Well, there's no tipping in Europe either.
Yeah. No, but in Europe, it's funny because with all the times I've been to Europe, like, I don't remember feeling that in Europe. Okay. But in Australia,
you felt it.
Yes. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I think that maybe because Australia is a similar culture to the U.S.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Right.
In terms of service and all that, because service is different in Europe. Yeah, than it is in the United States. But in Australia, it's more similar. It was like, I'm not supposed to tip you? Like,
interesting.
What? I feel so wrong getting up and leaving. And they're like, oh, yes, Americans, come and tip us.
Just leave America.
Yeah.
Just leave. Go to all beaches.
Yeah. So.
Go listen to Kylie.
Anyway.
So I wanted to bring up something, and I know, brace yourself, because this is something that I saw on The View.
Oh.
Twist. it's not you.
Oh, oh my
It's
gosh.
me. So, excuse me. On Monday on The View, they were talking about how there's, and this is nothing new, how there's that generation gap in government. And that a lot of the younger people were saying, we need more young people. We need more young people. And Whoopi Goldberg said something that I understand where she was coming from. I think she was right until she was wrong. Which is, she said, young people or younger people, they're all about like, oh, we need younger people, but nobody puts, the rubber to the road. Nobody, for the most part, steps up and runs and becomes viable candidates and things like that. And she's right to a degree, because what they didn't mention also was the fact of how much money it takes to run for anything.
Yeah, it takes a lot.
And, and also depending on your district where you're running, if you're, Becky No Name and you're 24, you're not going to get as much money for your campaigns as somebody who's been doing it for 20, 30 years or whatever, So I would like, I think we've talked about this in the past on the show, but what are your thoughts on this? Because I do think that there does come a point where, and I know it's going to sound ageist as hell, but come at me, I don't care. There does come a point where you're like, it's not even that you're too old. It's just like, just do it. Just let go. Stop being so egocentric and let go of the power.
Well, there's a couple of things there.
Let the power go and let someone else step in. It's not even so much of a power.
I don't mind somebody who's in their 70s or even 80s serving in government. What I have a bigger problem with, and this is as somebody who has worked extensively in politics, so I know it pretty well. What I have a bigger problem with are career politicians.
But that's what most of them become.
Right, but they could have been somebody who started in their 20s and are now in their 50s, which is still young. Right. But they've been in office. Michael Rubio is still young, right?
Yeah,
but Michael Rubio has been in office over 20 years. Right. So when you're in office so long, you're a career politician. I don't care on what side of the aisle you're on.
Right.
You have not lived a real
person's life. Yeah.
In 20 odd years. So you have to be out of touch. I don't care how much you say that you're one of the to your constituents, that you go around talking to people, blah, 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 blah. No, you don't. Yeah. You've been in office for over 20 years.
Pelosi is not in touch with the common man.
I have a bigger problem with that. Right. And it doesn't mean that even if you are a career politician, you can't do your job well. Right. There are a lot of career politicians that were good until the day they retired or died in office. Right. But to me, that is a bigger, that's a bigger part of concern for me, that they have been so out of touch for so many years that you say, what the regular everyday person is going through, but do you?
Yeah. Well, and that's something that, ¿cómo está esta muchacha? ¿Cómo se llama? Lois Farrah Fawcett Griffin.
Alyssa.
Esa misma. She was saying how, like, where it does come up is when they start talking or trying to bring up things like newer technology or newer issues that are coming up, like with things like AI and all those things. I think back a couple of years when Facebook was on trial, for lack of a better way of putting it, with the hearings of Facebook. I mean, those people, lo único que le faltaba was to be like, and how does it turn on? Is the Facebook in my phone?
Facebook?
Is the Facebook in my, in my
Google?
Right. Like, es lo que faltaba. You know what I mean? And that comes from when the average age is 60 something. Of the people who are governing a country, they're out of touch, like you just said. I mean, they're out of touch with certain things that it's like, look, you and I are very up to date and pretty modern and blah, blah, but there's going to come a time where we're going to be 70 and we're going to be 80 and we're not going to be as in touch with even something as stupid and silly as pop culture, right? You're just not going to know what's what. Mm-hmm. It's just the reality. Also, I don't care how much power, how career politician.
Let me tell you, season 45 of that
Jiminy Christmas. I don't want to be fucking doing that shit at 70. I don't want to be having to deal with people's bullshit about government at 70.
Well, but that's different. Okay, yeah, that's
retire. Go enjoy your life.
That's a personal choice. Really? And again, I don't have a problem with older people being in government. I have a problem with career politicians. With that said,
but they go hand in hand.
Well, but
to a degree.
Yes and no, because again, you have a Michael Rubio.
Well,
Michael Rubio is still young.
Okay,
as we say, Michael Rubio used to party at,
Amnesia.
At
phone parties.
The phone parties.
Right. But Marco Rubio is going to turn into this.
Right. But the reason I give him is because he's still young, but he's been a politician for 20-some years, right? So, and again, I'm not picking on him because he's a conservative.
No, you're using him as the age.
Right? He could have very been a Democrat, and I would have been saying the same thing. That's like, well, the Democrats, Dianne Feinstein.
Isn't she like 612?
Yes, and she finally said she's going to retire. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. But she's in like her mid to late 80s.
I thought she was 90.
Or maybe she is 90, right? Thank you for your service, Diane. You rock.
Here's your gold watch.
Diane, you should have been out of government like
20 years ago. 20-some years ago.
A minute ago.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, you do need new blood. Now, with that said, I think it has to be a balance.
Correct. No, you can't just have everybody be under 30.
Right. You can't.
Right.
Not even, I would even say under 50. Right?
Right.
Because there is a certain experience is very experience and ambition are very important in politics, right? Wanting to get things done, being from a generation that is up and coming. All that is very important, but there has to be a balance.
Right.
There has to be a balance. That was one of like the many things I had a problem with like AOC. Because when she came in there, she was like shitting on the bed.
She's like, burn it to the ground.
Oh, yeah, burn it to the ground. And, everybody before me, it's like, no. You're standing on the shoulders of people that, broke down barriers before you. So simmer down. Right.
Take a minute. You've been here 40 minutes.
I know you think you have all the ideas
all
and
the answers,
I know you have momentum, but again, you're standing on the shoulders of the people before you, right? Especially as a Latina and especially as a woman, right? So I think it's very important for the newer generation to know and understand that they're here because of the work that somebody else put in before them, right? And I think that because politics is such an ego-driven spectacle, people just want to go in there and be like the star, especially now that things are televised. But there's a balance. There is a balance. I just think that when you've been in there for 30 years, you are not the common man.
You're not.
I hate to break it to you.
You're not. I don't care how in touch you think you may be, unless you're.
Wait, there's going to come a point where we're not going to be hip and cool anymore.
I mean, it's a long way off. It's a long ways off. We still have time.
I mean, because there's people in their 50s that are like super cool.
I was actually thinking about that the other day because I saw this guy walking with his daughter, and he was maybe in his late 20s, early 30s, or whatever. And he was wearing like just a cool like a concert tee with like ripped black jeans, ripped on both knees, whatever. And it's just it struck me at
the
that
father
moment.
with a 20-some-year-old daughter.
No. The girl was like maybe 8.
Oh, okay.
The girl's like maybe 8 years old. But it struck me as that thing of like, I think you and I have talked about this off air, where, it used to be that the perception was after you hit a certain age and you have, the family and the 2-car garage, like, okay, well, I've got to trade in my jeans for my slacks.
I dress younger now.
Me too.
Than I did before.
Me because too. If you my shorts are shorter now.
Well, but you're special. If you recall, when I was in my teens and even 20s, I was Mr. Banana Republic and Gap.
You were the Gap spokesperson.
Well, I am still Gap, but
Mr. in a different
Banana
way.
Republic.
Yes.
Like, I see with the Banana Republic.
Very preppy.
Cologne, yes. And now I'm like...
You're like, whatever.
I'm like, urban shit all the way. Like, and then, it makes my dad like, pero niño, tú no te vistes como un abogado. And I'm like, thank God that I have never stepped inside a Jose Banks or a Brooks Brothers. I think one time I went to the Brooks Brothers at the fall.
Were you lost?
By mistake, because I don't know.
Did you have to use the bathroom?
No, there was like a lot of wood and I thought maybe it was an Abercrombie. Like, it was like one of those things a long time ago that I was like, this is not...
Didn't the lack of half-naked people throw you off?
I don't know, but I was like, this is not Abercrombie or Aeropostale. Whatever I was looking for, it was not
It was
Brooks
not
Brothers.
that. It was not.
Yeah,
yes,
I'm like, no, por favor. And then it's so funny because now thinking about that, I'm thinking about my big law days when I worked big law, and I did have to go in a suit and tie to work. Even then, I was like in my late 20s, early 30s. I would be the one that it wasn't anything crazy, but I'd wear like a striped shirt with like a pink tie.
You'd mix it up.
Right? Or like, again, like I still have my ties, like, or an orange tie, which I don't know. I just didn't want to wear monochrome or just like the red solid tie. And again, my father used to consider it, ay, pero esa combata que tú te compras. I'm like, Dad, I'm buying them at Macy's. Like, it's not like I'm going to Hot Topic to buy their, formal wear, right?
Hot Topic formal wear. Right. I'm sure that is a thing by now.
Right. But yeah, mixing it up. Yeah. But no, I dress younger now than I did.
Yeah, I like to think I do too, actually. It's weird.
Yeah. Oh, but Banana Republic was the shit. I still love Banana Republic. But a Banana Republic will run small. So right now, oh my God, a 36 or 34 in Banana Republic is like a 24.
And yet, Old Navy, which is owned by the same company, a size medium is like a large.
So it's funny you say that because I have a short sleeve shirt there from Old Navy. Right now, I'm a little on the heavier side, so it's not going to fit. But until the other day, Mr. 6'1", over 250 pounds, I would fit into the medium. And I'm like, in what world is this a medium?
Right. That's why I'm saying I don't buy. I buy mediums there.
No, you should go to the child section. Maybe you could get some of Tristan's clothing.
Does he have any hand-me-downs?
A few.
Okay. I do like some of his shirts.
Yeah. So, anyway. Hey everyone, this is DJ, and if you listen to the show, you know how much we love Jupiña. The pineapple soda is refreshing and sweet, and Jupiña goes great with everything from a medianoche to a hot dog to even a rum or vodka. Whether diet or regular, Jupiña has been part of our heritage for over 120 years. From watching our abuelos drink Jupiña at every get-together to introducing the next generation to its distinctive taste, Jupiña is practically part of the familia, como un Juprimo maybe. Así next time that you need a cool, refreshing beverage, grab that distinctive orange can of Jupiña. After all, only Jupiña tiene puro sabor a piña. Bueno, it's thirsty time.
It is thirsty time, so it's time for the last Jupiña.
It's time for Cartoon Planet.
So, do you want to go first? Or
No, you go first.
All right. I feel like I'm having trouble today with the microphone. I don't know why. It's working, but I just feel like I'm having trouble with it. All right, so I'm going to give a very odd little last Jupiña today.
Oh, yeah?
So my last Jupiña is kind of going to go to a legend, but not really.
Oh.
So, as you know, we do our interviews here on the show. And, that entails me reaching out to a lot of people and a lot of rejections. Well, I'm giving my last Jupiña to the rejection email that we got from Rita Moreno's publicist.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Because I'm just going to read it to you. It's very short and sweet. So this is what Judy Katz from Katz PR responded. Dear DJ and Ish at Pero, thank you for your interest in Rita Moreno. Unfortunately, at this time, we're not able to facilitate your requests. We are inundated with interview requests for Rita, and it's just not physically possible for her to be able to accommodate all these requests. We hope you understand why she just can't do them all and continue to work, which she loves to do. Your show sounds delightful, and I wish you the very best, and thank you again. Sincerely, Judy Katz.
Oh my God, let's send her a whole case of Jupiña.
Right? Like,
Rita will love Jupiña. I'm sure Rita drinks Jupiña.
I'm sure Rita knows her Jupiña. But it's just funny because, sometimes in this world where I'll reach out to people, and again, you don't have to be nice, right? You just have to be polite and whatever. But sometimes people don't respond. Sometimes people will respond like, no, they don't have time. Sometimes people will respond with, well, but what are the parameters?
Some people will respond with a contract that wants to pay us and own our intellectual property.
Exactly. And here we have somebody representing
who's an EGOT.
An EGOT, okay? Legend. And sends such a lovely, short and sweet at the end of the day, because it really was like 4 or 5 lines.
And it doesn't sound like a form rejection.
At all. Like, it sounds just personal enough.
Right.
Right? So I was like, you know what? I love that. And this is the second time that we've gotten rejected by Rita Moreno. But you know what? Come at me. I've been rejected by Rita twice. I'm good with it.
Wow.
How many people have been rejected by an EGOT?
Yes.
Right? That's a badge of honor.
Excellent.
So I went with that because I was like, this is just a great little nugget.
So I'm going to give a bit of a controversial last Jupiña.
Oh, no.
Because unfortunately it's controversial. But I'm going to give my last Jupiña to the Cosby Show.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay, but to the Cosby Show.
Not to Bill Cosby, to the Cosby Show.
I'm making a differentiator.
You know why? So we've always loved the Cosby Show.
Yeah.
We've talked about the Cosby Show.
We also love the Wretched.
Many times on our show. But in the last week, I sort of I told you about it. I fell into a Malcolm Jamal Warner wormhole.
Oh, that's right. You did.
I started watching all these videos because it all started that I was watching something on YouTube that showed that Malcolm Jamal Warner had the most screen credits post Cosby Show from the whole cast, right, including Felicia Rashad and even Bill Cosby, by a lot. And I'm like, I know he's been in a lot of things, but like I hadn't registered. He even won a Grammy. Like
that, I had no clue.
Yeah, he's a jazz singer and a rapper. Right.
Malcolm
Jamal Warner. So I fell down the Malcolm Jamal Warner, Theo Huxtable rabbit hole, and saw a bunch of interviews of him and all that. So then I started looking into all of them, which again, these are all people that I knew and I know, but
we grew
I
up
specifically fell into the rabbit hole. And I know every single episode of the Cosby Show, but you know what? Again, you could see something 1,000 times and then just sort of see it again with not different eyes, but sort of realize its importance. And that is a very important show. That is a very important show that cannot be forgotten.
Right.
It's important for African Americans. It's important for just, and obviously their culture, but just important in general because that TV show was at a time where people used to have what we always talk about, shared experiences.
Yeah.
Everybody watched that show on Thursdays.
Right.
And then talked about it at work or school on Friday. Everybody did. That was the beginning of must-see TV.
True.
And, the Cosby Show did such an excellent job talking about African American culture and history, from artists to writers to...
It was there even when they weren't talking about it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That cannot be put away. That cannot, because of Bill Cosby. And I've always said this. To me, all these like men that fell during the Me Too movement, to me, the one I had the hardest time with him was him. Like I was in denial. I was like, nope, it can't. And it's funny because I've always been that person. I'm like, you have to listen.
Right, you have to believe them. Right,
you have to believe them. But with him, which I know that happened to a lot of people, I was like, no, like I had a hard time letting go. Yeah. But there comes a point that you have to reckon it. And I was actually reading something about it, that I was reading an article about how unfair the Cosby Show has been treated compared to other shows. And they were saying that the reason why is because of the name. If that show would have been called The Huxtables, it would have been taken off the air. They were like, look at Roseanne. Roseanne said what she said. They took the name off the show
and kept going
and called it The Connors. Right. And they were, and another thing, because they were, a lot of people make the argument of separating the art
from the artist.
Mm-hmm. And they were giving the example of R. Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
R. Kelly's a little bit harder because R. Kelly's music is about sex and bump and grind.
Yeah, R. Kelly was telling you what he was doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
While he was stepping to the name of love.
Right.
But the Cosby Show and the Huxtables was completely fiction to the man. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
it has nothing to do with the indiscretion. Not indiscretion. Violent behavior. Yeah. Sexual abuse that he was doing in his private life.
Correct.
Right. This had nothing to do with that. So, I just thought that that's a show that I understand why people want, their reaction was to yank it off the air. But I think it's a show that is so important. And it was something that was so iconic and important at a very important time in the U.S. that it can't be just swept under the rug. Right. So, here's to Vanessa going to see The Wretched.
Oh, it's our favorite. We quote that so often.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I know everybody's episode is when they're singing "Baby" in the hall, and that one's all funny.
Right.
But the one of
The Wretched,
and you know what? And I've told you this before. My favorite character on that show was not him. He was not. Actually, he was probably my least favorite character. My favorite character was Claire.
Well, yeah.
I loved Claire. And
listen, if Claire had been named Clara, she could have also been Latina.
Ruby, go to your room. So good. So anyway, bueno, this was
That's it.
Bueno, I feel there's things you need to plug.
Yes. Okay. So I love how you always leave it up to me. So if you're listening to this on Friday, February 24th, we're going to be at Unseen Creatures from 1 to 6. I know you're saying 1 to 6, but that's okay. You can come. You can do a little happy hour. You know, who doesn't need a happy hour on a Friday? On Saturday night, if you were one of the lucky ones who was able to get tickets to the Make It Miami Market as part of SoBe Wine and Food Fest, I still can't believe that we're participating in that, by the way. Like, and tonight we're going, as we're recording this on Fake Friday, we're going to like some, party for the festival. And also thank you, Chef Chris, for inviting us yet again to your annual SoBe Wine and Food Fest party. It was fantastic. We love you. Celebrate your success every chance we get. And we have more pop-ups coming. Actually, we're also going to have a pop-up on March 4th at J. Wakefield. So that's going to be on the following Saturday. So we're going to be kind of busy.
Yeah. We're also going to be on the Home Shopping Club network selling our t-shirts.
Listen, Do Croqueta was on QVC.
They were?
They were selling
croquetas?
They were, because they do the thing with Goldbelly. So they were selling like the delivery of it all. And they did live segments.
Did they fly to the headquarters?
No, they did it from Do Croquetas because it was during the pandemic.
Oh, wow. I said that sort of jokingly. And okay, so maybe we could be on QVC selling Bing Bong Pollo.
Why not? We could send them and
dreams come true.
Dreams come true.
So anyway, when everybody, we hope you listen, laughed, and learn. As always, remember to grab your croqueta, your pastelito, and your jupiña. And thank you so much for joining us. Have a great week, everybody.
All right, cuídense. Bye. Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lomlaplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.